Canada wins gold, and the Four Nations face-off was a resounding success. Let's recap the final game and grade out how the Toronto Maple Leafs Stars performed. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centered podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What's going on, buddy? How about that game last night? Canada coming up victorious, gold medals again. And it was really all done perfectly. Shades of 2010, right, Dave? The biggest player in the world scoring for Canada in the biggest moment. 2010, that was Sidney Crosby at the time. 2025, it's now Connor McDavid and a perfect passing of the torch as he gets the overtime winner and secures the gold medal for Canada at the Four Nations face-off. What a tournament this turned out to be.
Yeah, I kind of went back on what my plans were going to be for the game. I said I was not going to be going out watching the game, but travel plans game back home, we just decided it was going to be quicker just to go and watch it at a bar. Fortunately, we got to see, it was packed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure, you try and get in a bar, in the GTA for a game like that. I'd imagine that's very difficult. I mean, even in the States, I don't know if you saw the numbers in the States, this game did better than any other hockey game in history. That's talking Olympics, Stanley Cup finals, whatever. This was the most viewed hockey game in American history. I saw it reported 9.3 million Americans tuned in on average. I'm sure it peaked a lot higher than that, probably once it got to overtime. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the Canadian numbers were also going to come out, and they'll be very similar here. And keep in mind, there's only 40 million Canadians. I guarantee you close to 40 to 50% of Canadians were dialed in and tuned in to watch that game last night. And, man, it lived up to expectation. I got to say, it wasn't the rough and tumbleness of the first game, but boy, was it ever compelling. Was it ever hard fought? It was tight, and I was on the edge of my seat the second overtime came. And it ended perfectly. It ended the way we wanted it to. It ended the way you said it was going to end. Connor McDavid coming up with the overtime winner to lead Canada to gold. It really was a perfect moment to end what was an outstanding tournament overall, Dave. I can't say enough good things about the way that the tournament unfolded. And both of us, a little skeptical going in. A lot of people were very skeptical of this tournament going in. But I don't think you won't find a single soul who watched a single second of this tournament sit there and say, yeah, could have been better, or yeah, just a glorified all-star game. No, there was heart, there was purpose, and man, it was a hell of a week of hockey.
No, it's the saying from the A-Team movies. I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when a prediction comes together. Because it was fitting for the moment, right? We've seen 2010 fitting for the moment, right? Winning the gold on Canadian soil. Your best Canadian player wins it.
Right, Captain Crosby with the goal. And I it just, to me, and I tweeted this out, it truly is a passing of the torch. Crosby's no longer the guy, right? He was great in this tournament at 37 years old, but we all know that Connor McDavid is the best player in the world, the best player for Canada, obviously. And seeing that passing of the torch in this way, where McDavid finally comes up big. And look, McDavid did not have a good game. And even he acknowledged post-game that he wasn't great all night, but he came up big when it mattered, and that's what the best players do.
It is. It truly, that's what makes these players, though, that's what gives them that level, right? Of, McDavid, it's funny. Some people are like, oh, he's been quiet. He hasn't really done much. And it's just like, again, like it's moments, right? They know when to find, when the moment calls for it, they know when to step up. And especially like in that overtime, like we thought he was going to score off the face-off. Like that's how determined he was. You know, John Cooper, I'm sure many those who hadn't seen it, there was the clip of him saying, like, somebody be selfish and shoot the puck in the net. Then he says Marner and McDavid out, right? Like, you guys are next. Like it was just like calling for that moment to happen. And I'm sure, I don't know how you were, but like the bar, obviously there was a lot of anxious people there, but we see McDavid in the slot there and we see the puck come to him, and it's like, you know how there's like that like just you're ready to explode, and it's just like that. It was nuts, right? Yeah. It went nuts. I'm sure maybe you even saw I think Real Sports had a camera at the watch party there. I know some people who were at Scotiabank Arena watching the game. There was a watch party there. Yeah. And yeah, that moment was just built. It was just built perfectly for the moment. And I mean, the great thing about this tournament, everybody talking as like how hockey is on the rise.
Yeah. Right. Well, the amount of Americans that aren't typically hockey people that not only tuned in, but are now talking about hockey in a big way, like actually turning people into fans. And that's the point of what this tournament was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to, and that's why we've been clamoring for best on best for so many years. It's the best way to advertise your product to the rest of the world. And that's exactly what Canada and USA were able to do at this tournament. Advertise the best players on planet Earth out there playing the game they love at such a high level, and they really did the NHL such a great service, such a great 9.3 million Americans tuned in to this game. Like, that is a wild number. And I even saw tweets from people who aren't really hockey people saying, like, this has been an incredible theater. I've been absolutely sucked into this tournament. And, you know, I even saw like JJ Watt was tweeting. And look, JJ Watt, he's been a big hockey fan. He grew up in Wisconsin, grew up on the ice. He was a big hockey fan. He played growing up. And even he said, I had friends texting me saying, like, hey, where are we watching the game? Let's have a watch party. Let's get the, like, people were getting into it. And it's so great to see. It's how you grow the game. It's how you grow the game. And I think this tournament, we'll look back on it 10, 15 years from now. And, you know, I think there's going to be a big time difference in how many Americans and whatnot are watching this sport. Like, I think that they made a lot of fans here. And now they're hopefully not only, you know, they're not just doing it for the patriotism, but they're doing it because they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the sport. They opened their eyes to it. And now, you know, they want to see Sidney Crosby play for the Penguins. They want to see Connor McDavid play for the Edmonton Oilers. Austin Matthews playing for the Maple Leafs. Nathan McKinnon for the Colorado Avalanche. Cale Makar. The list goes on and on and on. And that's what these tournaments are for. And the fact that Gary Bettman went 11 years without putting this product in, you know, into the atmosphere for consumers to try and build the game is asinine. But he finally did. And it really was an absolute home run tournament. We've gone way too long into this podcast without bringing up Jordan Binnington also, because Jordan Binnington got so much criticism heading into this tournament and so much more criticism once he got there, and allowed a couple of squeakers throughout the Four Nations face-off. But boy, did he ever come up big and come up clutch when they needed him in that overtime. And he did the same thing in Sweden. I remember thinking, hey, man, that's why they brought him there, because when, you know, his back's up against the wall, he has proven in the past that he can come up with that big save, that clutch save. He may not make every save you want him to throughout the game, but when you really need it, he can make that big stop. And boy, did he ever come up with a couple of big ones in overtime. Austin Matthews had the game on a stick. The game
twice.
Well, like right in front. And Jordan Binnington right there to make the save and keep the game alive. He made, 3, 4 big-time stops in overtime. I thought that game was over. I thought the Americans were going to go off and celebrate a victory and take a nice little victory lap around Canadians. But no, Binnington really showing that he was the right choice after all. And, kudos to John Cooper for sticking with Binnington, for having the belief in him.
Mhm.
And I couldn't have been happier for a guy like that and the flowers that he's now received in the last 24 hours since the game. Because, man, he had a hell of a performance there in overtime and really throughout the game. And, it's just I loved to see it, considering, how beaten down he was throughout the tournament, and for him to come up with a performance like that to help Canada win the game, I think was also quite poetic.
There are two things that really stuck out about me. One, shout out to the players that went and went to Binnington. I know there was the pile of players that went in to celebrate with McDavid, but those that went to Binnington, I think that was just it was a realization of just how much he came up clutch for them in that overtime. Mm-hmm. And the bar was absolutely everyone was on Binnington after those saves. They're just guys playing on another level. My favorite thing too was the meme that I think it was the Bleacher Report Open Ice X account put out of Shaq saying, "I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game."
Dude, I think I tweeted out mid-game. I'm like, I don't know what it is about overtime, but Jordan Binnington turns into Brodeur once you get into extra time here, and he really did. Not only in the Sweden game, but again in last night's game as well. He was absolutely dialed in and was phenomenal. I'm curious, is he the front runner right now for the starting job at the 2026 Olympics after that? Or do you think Logan Thompson might still have
I think you'll see Thompson and him kind of duel it out. I think.
Yeah.
I do. I think, you might see other goalies coming to the fold here, like Mackenzie Blackwood could be a guy that if he continues a strong stretch with Colorado, you might see him get into the mix. I think it's obviously Binnington. Everyone will remember this game and probably give him the edge. And I mean, we also know that Team Canada, the coaching staff, preferred Binnington in a lot of ways, and that they didn't prefer Logan Thompson. So Logan Thompson's first got to make the team too.
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
He should make the team second time around over Sam Montembeault, maybe. So I think you'll see the two of them. I think if I had to place a prediction right now, I would say it's the two of them that'll be going toe to toe next year.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet, I would imagine. Speaking of betting, we'll take a quick break. Hear from one of our sponsors, FanDuel, and then we'll get back and we'll grade out how the Maple Leafs did, because boy, oh boy, those two, Marner, Matthews, saved their best performance for last. So we'll give them their flowers next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game faces off, the NHL action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening face-off and you want to bet on a third-period comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late rally or picking a player to score a goal. I never feel like I'm missing my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Last night, I placed a wager. There was a nice little boost on FanDuel. Connor McDavid, 1+ point. It cashed. It hit. I got my money in minutes. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morisuti with you, coming off a victorious night for all of Canada after Canada beat the U.S. 3-2 in overtime. Connor McDavid playing hero in OT, getting a pass from none other than Mitchell Marner, David. Dude, there's absolutely no one I'm more happy for, I guess, than Mitch Marner, because just like Binnington was much maligned throughout this tournament, as was Marner. And I think even more so because A, he's a Toronto Maple Leaf and you're always going to get scrutiny. But B, there's always been that narrative that Marner fades in the playoffs, fades when it gets tight, fades when his back is up against the wall and when the game really, really matters. And Mitch Marner saved his best performance for last night in the biggest moments, not only getting an assist on the game tying goal, but also making a big play to get the primary helper on the game winning goal as well, finishing the night with 2 assists. I thought that Mitch Marner was excellent. Full 200-foot player last night, leading Canada to victory.
He was, you know what it was? It wasn't, he didn't try to do those extra things that he didn't need to do, right? Like, look at the Bennett goal. That doesn't happen without Mitch Marner catching him in stride with the right pass, and obviously Bennett with an absolute great shot over Hellbuck there. But like, even the overtime goal, right? Like, realize, like, it was like quick. He had to really think quickly, get the puck to McDavid, right? Not hold on to it, see if he can get it. Like, no, it was like thinking quickly, getting that play going, right?
Yeah, the thing that I've realized about Mitch Marner throughout his career, and it's something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, is when Marner's playing with confidence, he's one of the best players in the world. When he doesn't have that confidence, that's when you start to see him cough up the puck and make those little errors. Last night, when he got elevated back up to the top line with Connor McDavid about halfway through the game, I think that gave him his confidence back. Now, he played his way onto it, so kudos to the way he started the game. But then when you get put back up on a top line and you're given those minutes in overtime alongside Connor McDavid, I mean, that's just a huge vote of confidence that he's getting from John Cooper. And I believe that he took it and ran with it, because you're right. The Mitch Marner plays at his best when he's not overthinking the game and it's all coming very fluid to him, right? He gets that puck in the corner and he spots Connor McDavid all alone in the slot. I mean, what Austin Matthews was doing there, I do not know, letting a guy like that sit all alone in the slot, giving him all that time to do whatever the hell he wanted to. But Mitch Marner noticed it, and he got the puck over to him quickly right away, allowing him to, finish and obviously ended the game. But I hope that he can use this experience and springboard it to kind of further his career. Like, can he put that narrative behind him now that he's had that moment, right, where he's come up big in a pressure-packed moment like that? Can he now do that come playoff time for the Toronto Maple Leafs? That is what I'm hoping and praying, as someone who covers this team and as someone who wants to see the Leafs go on a long run and finally win a Stanley Cup, that this moment, this game for Marner gives him the confidence to know that he can come up big when the moment calls for it. He's yet to do that so far in his Maple Leafs career. He finally got it. He now has the taste of victory. Can that propel him forward into his Leafs career? I don't know. We shall see. But I have a sneaky suspicion that we'll see a much better Mitch Marner, who now has learned he can win and how to win. I'm excited to see Marner in the playoffs after a performance like that.
Yeah, I mean, he said it after the game, belief, right? You don't go from being a player that's close to scoring 100 points in the playoffs and then struggling. It's not a talent issue. It's, in my opinion, it's a confidence thing. It's a belief thing that you need to understand. And it's also realization that you need to take your game to a different level. You need to understand that the playoffs are different than the regular season. So yes, you've got the tools to be that player, but what really propels you is the mindset that you need in those moments, right? And so I think that's, in my opinion, I've always felt like that's something that has kind of been an issue with these Leafs players is the mindset that they need. This isn't the regular season. You need to you have to leave it all out there. You look at, why was no one surprised McDavid was ready for that moment? Because we've seen him, in the playoffs, raise his game to another level. You look at McCarr, you look at McKinnon, you look at Crosby. They're built for these moments. So, I think with Marner, he hasn't really had a moment like this, really. I think that this is the confidence building thing for him. And even for Matthews, on the McDavid goal, when he was wide open in the slot, I didn't really pay attention to who was on the ice for the US, and I went after. I said, what? Who's the guilty? And I'm like, no,
it's Austin.
No. But even for him, you saw in overtime, we said it. He could have put that game away, and he was
dangerous. He was dangerous all night long.
Yeah, that's something that we've seen him. We've seen these guys be dangerous, but it's not realizing that that's got to be right from the start, right? That's got to be your mindset. So hopefully, being a part of this for Mitch, especially, I think for Mitch was more important because I think he needed that realization maybe a little bit more than Matthews did.
Yeah, that's probably right. Realistically, I look at Austin Matthews' game though, outside of, obviously the blown coverage there, leaving McDavid alone in overtime. That aside, I thought he had a really strong game, his strongest game of the tournament. He ended up with, assists on both of the goals that the Americans scored, and obviously had a couple of real high danger opportunities there in some grade A chances in overtime. And, Binnington was there to make the stop, but it could have been a moment where Matthews came up huge with a goal and 2 assists and a 3-2 U.S. win. And all of a sudden, the conversation today is completely different. It's, wow, Matthews showed that he can come up big as the captain of a team, when called upon. And all of a sudden, that one little mistake that he made came back to bite him in the ass. And hey, it is those small details in these big moments that can bite you in the ass. And it's happened a lot to the Maple Leafs over the years. Look at the goal last year by David Pastrnak, how you allow him to get in all alone like that and get in behind the D and get the puck is, that just shouldn't happen. And it did, obviously, and it cost them their season. And, last night, Matthews, how do you let McDavid get away from you like that? I don't know, but it did, and it cost him the game and cost him a medal. But overall, I thought they both played really well, ultimately. I thought Marner was a beast in the defensive end too. Really good stick. A couple of times he forced a couple turnovers to turn the play the other way, which was a big reason why I think John Cooper, he saw Marner's got a little juice tonight. Let's throw him back up with McDavid and see if we can get something to work. And obviously it leads to the game-winning goal there in overtime. But we'll see what happens going forward. Both those two back in action on Saturday. Leafs back in action. It's a back-to-back this weekend. So after cramming in a bunch of hockey for Marner and Matthews within a week, Nylander as well, now you got a back-to-back to start things off. That's kind of silly, but we'll come back. We'll tee up those games and let you know what the lineup might look like and if we got any new blood checking in. That's all coming up next on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's show is brought to you by SelectQuote. In sports, having winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, World Series, Four Nations Final, Stanley Cup Final, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agent tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon today. That is selectquote.com/lockedon today. You shop, they save.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DeStefano, Dave Morisuti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get a podcast and also up on YouTube. Just search up Locked On Leafs. Get yourself 365 days a year of Leafs coverage. And the Maple Leafs are back in action this weekend. So coming off of the Four Nations face-off, it's really a quick turnaround for the players who took part in the tournament, right? You think about it. That goal was scored, shortly before midnight on Thursday, once it ended up going to overtime, 11:30 or so. And they're back in action literally Saturday. Connor McDavid specifically. So he scores that goal shortly before midnight on Friday, and he's back in action. He's got a 1 p.m. puck drop Saturday afternoon in Philly. Real quick turnaround. Did these guys even have did they have a chance to celebrate and party last night?
Oh yeah, they partied. They partied in the locker room.
But they didn't really have a chance to fully party. I don't know. I thought it was kind of it'd be a real quick turnaround. I guess they party last night and then everyone get their flights out to where they got to go to, wherever their games are this weekend. Friday throughout the day, I suppose, would be the move, I guess.
Yeah, my guess is not an early morning wake up. Give some time for the players to, figure out what they need to do next. I mean, they've already got majority of their equipment with them, so I guess, yeah, get to the airport. And the ones I think they're gonna feel it the most are the ones that got to go from the east to west. Like McDavid, fortunately, he's staying in the Eastern time zone, right? The Leafs, I don't know how many players have to go out west. Sucks to be them, I guess, because that's probably the tough part about I looked, I said, okay, yeah, so maybe they come back on Monday, Tuesday, and we get this. Nope. They're right back at it.
And a lot of back-to-backs too. You got Saturday, full slate of games, a whole bunch of them, and then on Sunday you've got a whole whack of games as well. So a lot of back-to-backs, McKinnon. You've got Tampa playing some back-to-backs this weekend. You've got Edmonton in a back-to-back. They're in Washington on Sunday. That'll be a good game. And obviously the Maple Leafs are also playing a back-to-back. So they're in Carolina on Saturday, and they had to cross over the border, and they got a 7 o'clock start against the Chicago Blackhawks and Connor Bedard on the Sunday. So, yeah, you're getting right to it for the Maple Leafs. And why don't we kind of quickly detail what the lineups looked like in practice today, what we could potentially see in these games. And keep in mind that both Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner obviously not at practice today. They were traveling back to Toronto to get ready for the game. So Yarncrocs and Steves were the two players that were, in place of those two on the practice lines alongside with Matthew Nyes. So it looks like those three players are going to end up being back on a line together. McMahon, Tavares, and Nylander. So Nylander back at practice after missing, a couple days there, traveling back for Team Sweden. Nick Robertson, Pontus Holmberg, and Max Domi as your third line. Then Steven Lorentz, David Camp, and Connor Dewar as your fourth line. So two players who were not in the lineup where they were earlier in the week. Ryan Reeves, so it looks like Revo not going to play. Looks like Connor Dewar probably going to get activated from the IR tomorrow and get inserted into the lineup. And then looks like Robertson will play after all. And I think that has to do with the fact that Max Pacioretty might not be good to go tomorrow. What's the latest there, Dave? He missed practice today.
Yeah, it was a few days ago where they were getting ready to start practice. He tweaked something, felt tightness and left practice, and he wasn't able to come back from that. So yeah, that's a bit of a concerning thing, considering he just came back not long ago from an injury himself. So we got and this is probably the worst time for the Leafs to suffer injuries, especially with Marner and Matthews coming back. Matthews is a little banged up, so there was some thought that some of the players that are coming back from the Four Nations might take the first game off just to kind of give themselves a bit of a breather, but at least don't really have that luxury right now. They can't.
A lot of teams don't have that luxury.
No.
It's an absolute dogfight, especially in the Eastern Conference, for like those,
especially the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, exactly. Although it does sound like Matt Tkachuk, who was unable to finish last night's game, stayed on the bench to root on the team. But Matt Tkachuk, who was injured going into the game, obviously tweaked something, got hurt, was unable to finish the game. And I saw a report today he's most likely not going to be suiting up tomorrow for the Florida Panthers. I'd imagine the Panthers not too pleased about that, him playing through an injury, risking, club games, which is happening, obviously. So I'm sure they're not too thrilled about it, but is what it is. Defensively, it looks like we've got McCabe and Tanev back together. OEL suiting up next to Morgan Riley. So OEL flipping over to the right side with Mo, and then Benoit and Connor Timmins looking like the third pair for tomorrow night. I still look at this blue line and think like, yeah, there's got to be a trade here at some point to bring in somebody. You can't have Ekman Larson and Timmins as like your second and third pair right shot defenseman. Like, I'm sorry, they got to find a way to get Riley a partner and then shift OEL down to the third pair and just kind of lengthen them out a little bit is kind of what I'm thinking looking at this.
Yeah, I see it, and I know everyone's looking and talking about third line center, and they need a third line center, and yeah, they could use a third line center.
Both. They need both. Realistically, they do need both.
Realistically, they need both, and it's just like pick your poison of which one you feel like is the one that you need to kind of prioritize. Like, I'm not saying don't just because you go and get a right shot defenseman doesn't mean you can't upgrade the center ice position, but it's like you have to think of prioritizing your assets for the one that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And to me, I think fourth, second pair defenseman still, I think, holds a little more cachet in terms of a need. Third line center is important, but I think the blue line, I mean, we just saw it, how important it is to have a blue line in the playoffs, right? That can go toe to toe.
Yeah.
And so I kind of still would like to see them prioritize the blue line.
Yeah, we'll see how aggressive they are. If they are aggressive and believe that this is a potential year to win, and it's wide open in the East, so very well could be. I would, maybe like to see him push the chips all in officially and, upgrade both third line center and second pair right shot D to pair up with Morgan Riley. But we'll see what that ends up happening there. No word on who's going to be starting in goal yet, but it's back-to-back. So Stoley and Woolley will start. One of them will start Saturday. The other will start on Sunday. It's just the way that it's going to be. I don't think it really matters a whole lot who starts at what point. But it is worth noting that the Carolina game, too, like we talk about how it's a quick turnaround for Matthews and Marner, quick turnaround for Slavin and Seth Jarvis as well. So,
yeah.
A bunch of teams and those stars. But I also wonder, too, like, think about how fast the games were, right? You get back to the NHL when it's not, your fourth line aren't top players in the league.
Yeah.
Like, is the game going to slow down for these guys? And are they going to be able to play at like a much higher level? I don't know. I feel like maybe, the guys who actually went to go and play at the Four Nations Face-Off, although they've played a lot of hockey and they didn't get that break, they're also playing hockey at a very high level right now and thinking the game at a high level, and it may benefit them coming out of the gate. So, like, I don't know, for me on FanDuel, I'm looking at some of those guys who played at the Four Nations Face-Off and have been playing hockey and didn't take that 2-week break. Might be guys that I look to bet on tonight for my anytime bets. And keep in mind, Matthews, he's gotten 6 straight games without a goal. The final 6 games leading into the break didn't score. So you know that he's going to want to come up big in this game against Carolina and then try and also, show up against Connor Bedard once they get into Chicago on Sunday. So I'm expecting a nice weekend out of our boy Austin. I think he snaps the skid and he scores and he gets going pretty early here and finishes off the back half of the season on a nice little stretch run. That'd be nice for him and also for the Maple Leafs.
I was kind of hoping we wouldn't see Jacob Slavin for a bit after watching him in that final. And then I was like, oh, shoot, they play Carolina on Saturday. No, that's just go fitting. Go figure that's how it goes.
He had a big time open ice hit on Seth Jarvis. Like, he didn't care. He's like, I'm playing for the flag, playing for the country. Sorry, Seth. Boom. Actually, Matthews had a nice hit on Marner too on a back check in the defensive zone. That kind of made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, so it's I kind of was saying to myself, yeah, well, I guess we're going back to NHL hockey now. Yeah. It's just like it's going. I think what made people enjoy this tournament so much, every single shift, guys emptied the tank, and not just empty the tank. It was back and forth. The pace was incredible. Yeah, like I'm hoping people understand that there's gonna be a bit of a drop off now. Like, it's not gonna be like that. Just prepare yourself.
Yeah,
I think hopefully for the players who weren't playing, they watched this and were inspired.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's one player who I think will get off to a really good start, and that's John Tavares. We've seen in the past when he gets a little bit of a break, to rest the body and get those legs nice and rested. He can usually come back with a bang and have a solid month. So I'm hoping that that's the case here for John Tavares as well. All right, anything else you want to bring up quickly before we take off here, Dave?
No, I can't wait to see. A good thing is there's no break for hockey action. We're gonna have hockey, and I just hope it's hopefully not too much rust for the guys that didn't play.
Yeah, you think there's going to be a little rust on some of these guys? I could see that being the case. Yeah, I can see that as well. Oh, funny, actually. Did you see Berube and Nyes had some scratch on them?
Buds, Matt, Nyes. You don't make a bet with an old sorry, Craig is an older guy. You don't make a bet like that and not be ready to pay up.
Yeah, he didn't show up to practice today with the money. Like, what are you doing? You show up, you made a bet. Pay your bet like a man, especially against Berube. I think the coach came out and said, yeah, there's going to be some extra points, some interest on that, Matty. I thought that was pretty funny. I appreciate that. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morasudi and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Until then, enjoy the games. Carolina tomorrow, Chicago on Sunday. Should be a lot of fun. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.